Here we go. Today we're going to be talking about something that gets a lot of questions. What is it like to live on the road with a cat? Whether you're thinking about adopting a cat for van life or you're just curious about how it all works, we have some answers for you. But first, let me introduce you guys to Moose, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we found her. This is Moose. She's pretty mad right now. She has a lot to say. Tip number one, we're gonna talk about getting your cat comfortable with travel. That includes driving on road trips and also daily life living in a truck camper or a van. One of the biggest questions we get asked is, how do you get your cat comfortable with driving? And this is a tricky one because different cats react to things differently. Like the cat that I grew up with, Lizzie, she hated driving. She would meow, it was not her thing. I also have heard some cats get car sick, so you really just gotta test the waters and see how things go. And when we drive or transport Moose from the cab of the truck to the back of the camper, we use this backpack. It's the backpack that she has had since she was a kitten. It basically just sits in the middle seat in the truck and we just zip it up and that's where she stays. She loves her backpack. She loves road trips. She loves driving. Every single time we drive down a dirt road, she is sound asleep, and I don't know how, but it's like her superpower. So I would definitely get some type of something where you can contain your cat while you drive, because you most definitely do not want your cat to be roaming around your vehicle freely. We don't keep her zipped up in the backpack at all times though. We do unzip it so that she can look out, and sometimes she'll come and sit on my lap and take a nap, but she never goes farther than that. She's not allowed to go on the floor, she's not allowed to go on the dashboard, and she's not allowed to go into the very back while we're driving because there's bikes back there and it's dangerous. She would love to go back there. Trust me. She tries to do it all the time. Where did this come from? Oh, and if you live with a cat in a camper, there's gonna be fur everywhere, always, all the time, 24/7. It was a little different for us with Moose because we got her when she was a kitten, around 4 or 5 months old, and she pretty much grew up in the camper, so it's all she's ever known. She was introduced to it pretty much immediately. But if we were to have a house cat and try to transition that cat to be a road life cat, I would definitely start with just going on drives and giving lots of treats. Moose loves treats, especially these lickable ones, and just kind of slowly introducing them to the space, to the car, let them get comfortable with it, let them know that it's not a scary thing, because cats are very much creatures of habit. So, you know, living on the road is like kind of the opposite of a routine for a cat. Another thing to take into consideration when getting your cat comfortable with living in a van or a truck camper is to make sure that they have things that make them feel comfortable. So for Moose, she has her igloo. She has had her igloo since she was a kitten, and it is her safe place whenever she gets scared, whenever she gets cold. And I think it's really important to have that for a cat, especially if they're coming from a house. If you could bring in some toys or blankets or something that they like so that they can hang out with the things that they love. Because again, cats are creatures of routine and habit, and having the same place to go back to every day makes her happy. So, right, Moose? All right, tip number 2, cat-proofing your camper or your van. This kind of is a no-brainer, but you obviously just want to make sure that there's no gaps or holes that your cat can get out through. Make sure you have windows that close all the way. These windows are pretty bomb-proof when it comes to cats, so we feel comfortable leaving her in here just with these windows. In our old camper, we had a 1989, and technically she could have pushed the screen over, but in order to prevent that, we cat-proofed it and we duct taped part of the screen so that she couldn't slide it open. So just things like that, and also making sure that they have a high place to sit. If you haven't seen on my Instagram or in past YouTube videos, Moose loves perching up on the pillows behind me. It's her favorite thing to do. It is her favorite spot. It's kind of like her cat tower, and she owns those pillows. And so I think having a spot that your cat can kind of perch up high on will be great. Your cat will love it. Oh, and you also want to make sure that you have a good spot to put their food and water. Again, cats like routine, so we always try to make sure that her food and water is in the same spot. But she knows where her water is, and she knows where her food is, and it's always fresh and ready to go. Tip number 3, let's talk about the not so glamorous side of living on the road with a cat, the litter box. Keeping Moose's litter situation clean and under control has been crucial for her, but also for us. So we have a designated spot for her litter box. The team at Outpost was able to cut a circular cat hole for her where her litter box goes, and it's in the closet area of our camper. And so she's able to get in and out of there super easily. There are all times of the day, and it's unobstructed. She fits in there perfect. And we also have these little scent absorbing things that we put in there and change out every couple of weeks. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to living on the road with a cat is that you need to stay on top of changing the litter every day. Nobody wants to live in a camper that smells like litter box, and if you do, that's great, but I don't. So we change our litter box every day, and Moose is happy, we're happy, our clothes are happy because our clothes are in that closet, separated from the litter box. Something that has been a challenge is trying to figure out what kind of litter we want to use for Moose on the road. We've tried pellets, we've tried the crystal things, we've tried a couple different of the clay clumping litters, but we have finally found one that works best for us, and I'll link it down in the description below. It clumps great, it doesn't track, it doesn't smell, and Moose loves it and we love it, so everybody's happy. It's great. All right, tip number 4, we're gonna talk about going outside. This totally varies depending on the cat owner, what you're comfortable with, and what you know your cat is comfortable with. So take this with a grain of salt. This is all personal preference. I know people who trust their cats to go outside without a leash, and they'll just go outside with the tracker on and then come back, which is awesome. That's so cool. And then I also know people who never let their cats outside of their vehicle, and that's also so cool. So total personal preference. This is what Moose's journey has looked like with the outdoors. So Moose's outdoor journey did start off a little rocky. We threw her in a harness pretty early just to get her used to wearing a harness because we knew that eventually we wanted her to be an outdoor leash trained cat. Every time we took her outside, she just seemed completely uninterested and just wanted to run right back into the camper. It has definitely been a journey with getting Moose comfortable with being outside, and I think one of the big things that helped make us feel comfortable with her going outside is making sure that she has a solid harness that cannot come off, and 2, making sure she has her tracker on her. We use the Tractive tracker, and 3, making sure that her collar is on her with like her name and her little tag with our phone numbers on it, just in case anything happens. That always has to be on her when she goes outside. But in terms of making sure she feels comfortable going outside, what we've been doing is we'll put her harness and her leash on her, we'll leave the door open, and just kind of let her choose to go outside because we don't want her to feel like we're forcing her to go outside. So we give her the option, just since she isn't super warmed up to it quite yet. And in the past couple months, she's made some solid progress with expressing interest in going outside and being happy going outside, rolling in the dirt, taking me around through the bushes. She's been loving it. So it's been really cool to see her journey go from being super terrified of being outside and scared of literally every living thing that moves and running straight back into the camper, and now seeing her choosing to go outside on her own and loving it. And then we leave the camper door open while she's outside so she can hop back in whenever she wants to. So I would say if you are trying to leash train your cat and you live on the road, introduce them to it very slowly. I would definitely start with putting the harness on them just so that they're used to it, because you put a harness on a lot of cats and they just immediately fall over and don't know how to walk. It's pretty funny. So get them used to that harness. Make sure you leave the door open for them so that they have the option to run back to their safe place. I think it's super important that they can have the option to get back into their house if they want. That way they don't dart into the bushes or run somewhere else if they hear something scary. And also make sure you let them outside in a quiet and safe environment. So I wouldn't recommend letting them outside for the first time at dusk when there's coyotes out in the desert, because you just never know what could happen. So just make sure you're in a safe environment, no dogs around, and that your cat has the option to hop back into its home. Tip number 5, keeping your cat healthy on the road. With Moose, we really make sure to play a lot with her. Playtime is a huge thing for Moose. In the morning, she's crazy, and in the nighttime, she's crazy. Midday, she's usually sleeping. But when she has her crazy times, we always make sure to play with her because it's good for them. She gets her energy out, it makes her sleep better, it's good for her brain, it's good for all of the things. Another way that we make sure Moose stays healthy on the road is we feed her consistently, and a consistent type of food too, because you don't want to be mixing up their food all the time. It definitely took us a couple tries to find the food that she likes, but now she found a dry food that she likes and a wet food, and she loves it. She's very, very picky, so it was definitely a journey trying to figure out what kind of food she likes. We always make sure that she has dry food that is accessible throughout all the day, and fresh water. She also loves drinking from the sink. Apparently she thinks that she's too fancy to drink on the ground, so she'll only drink water if it is on a table or if it is coming out of the sink. And Moose is really good about asking for water, so whenever she wants water, she'll sit over here right below the sink and just stare up at the sink, or she'll hop up onto the counter and start licking the faucet because she thinks that that's how it turns on. A lot of people have asked if it has been an easy transition with having a cat versus not having a cat on the road, and it has been the easiest and the best decision we have ever made. Moose has made road life so much more fun, so much more playful, and she's so snuggly. She's truly the best addition to our little family, and we could not imagine living on the road without her now. So if you're thinking about hitting the road anytime soon with your feline friend, I hope that these tips helped you in one way or another. And as always, if you guys have any questions or tips of your own, make sure to drop them in the comments. And be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more road life and adventure content. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Over and out, Far Out Stoke.